Toodle doo, my merry band of bitches. It's your boy, Dr. Goon, and welcome to another comic story review, with this one being perhaps one of the greatest comics to ever hit the shelves. That is the six-part series by J.M.D. Mateus, Kraven's Last Hunt. Absolute horror fest, psychologically destructive, whatever you want to call it. This is a tale woven by the crazed mind of Kraven the Hunter, who, if you don't know, is an op to Spider-Man. But before we get into this, smash the like button. Make sure to go check out my recent video, Avengers vs. Freedom Force, The Beef. I'm back making regularly scheduled content, and tomorrow I'm debuting a series called The Most Overpowered Narratives in Fiction. Now, the first couple ones will be just comic narratives that are OP, but if the videos do really well, I will start going throughout all of fiction by the start of episode 3. So make sure to check that out when it drops. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to get into Kraven's Last Hunt. I hope you enjoy my storytelling, and if you want to see another story on the channel, get in the comment section and let me know which story you want to hear me narrate. But without further ado, let's begin. So, Kraven's Last Hunt, like I said, is a six-part series in which we see this through the eyes mostly of Kraven the Hunter. Now, he is trying to achieve ultimate hatership. He has felt throughout his whole life he's been second to the likes of Spider-Man. He's hunted everything in the world successfully except for the spider. And this has driven him to a point of absolute madness. Now, keep in mind all the drugs he's done, all the poisons he's taken, all the battles he's undergone. This has just completely gone to his head. Not convinced he's crazy before diving into the story. It opens up with him referring to himself in 3 different versions. First, he talks about Kraven the Beast. Talks about how off all these drugs he's doing and how crazy he's going, he's always been a beast, an absolute monster, the goat of goats. Someone who has constantly ran down on the scariest things nature could offer, and not only done well, but pretty much bested everything. So as a beast, Kraven is elite. He then kind of switches personas over to Kraven as a man, or Kraven the Man. He grew up and was hailed from aristocratic roots. His family's from Russia, comes from nobility. However, he also came up in a time in which Russia reached its greatest power and then collapsed. And this collapse and this blood, it's really weighed on him. Kraven feels that none have honor in the modern day. And his parents would have seen the world as weak because the world they came from and thrived in had so much more honor and was so much harder to come up in. We then get the third perspective, that perspective being Kraven the Hunter, who states he has found honor among the jungles and the primal. And this kind of serves as him reflecting on the irony of existence for what it's supposed to be in terms of sophistication. The cities and the people he encounters have never been honorable to him. However, when he goes to the jungle and undergoes these primal processes, he feels there's a lot more honor to that. And although, of course, he can still hunt, he's still in great condition, he feels he must die soon, as he's pretty much done everything he can in his lifetime that he wants to satisfy. However, he has one last goal to reach. We then transition to Peter Parker, who is absolutely tripping balls. This is Peter in the black suit, and he's actually kind of going through an identity crisis as he doesn't feel like he's actually Spider-Man. He doesn't feel like he's a good person, as recently Joe Face, a guy named Joe Face, died, right? And this is kind of messing with Peter because he doesn't know if he's really losing it in terms of being a hero. The thugs also run from him on sight, as Spider-Man has been known recently to be a little more tougher. You know, they don't want to deal with Spider-Man. Someone's recently died. It's tough out here in the streets. We then see Spider-Man robs the thugs as he scares them. We also see a continuation of a grave being dug. That is, there is this underlying story going through right now of a grave being dug, and as the reader, you're not quite sure why it's being dug, who it's being dug for. We just get this constant peak of a grave being dug. That's when we see Spider-Man reflecting on what's going on. He has faced death every day, and he keeps losing his friends and family as well. He is confident in a lot of things as a caped crusader. Confident in his abilities, confident in his ability to fight and save people, beat up bad guys, but at the same time, he's seen so much death. He's been around so much death. He's dodged so much death that he can't help but feel like eventually his time is going to run out. We then see Spider-Man is having nightmares of Kraven eating spiders as he hunts him. Now, of course, Kraven and him have always gone back and forth. They've had great battles. Spider-Man's obviously won more times than not. However, all this tragedy that's been building up, plus his transition to the Black Spider-Man, as well as just morally struggling, it all seems to be adding up and really haunting him. Plus, he has to think of his newly wedded wife, Mary Jane. We then see Kraven referencing Spider-Man and kind of dissecting how he feels about Spider-Man. He says Spider-Man is no man at all. Simply put, no man could torture Kraven over the years the way Spider-Man has tortured him. No way that's him. For something to humiliate him like that, it has to be the ultimate beast. And this, again, kind of showing the madness of Kraven, where he's unable to see that he's just gotten played over the years by a trickster in Spider-Man, who really doesn't mean much harm. He's just trying to stop a bad guy in Kraven. Kraven cannot depart Earth until he has destroyed Spider-Man in his complete essence. That is his final goal, his final task, his final trial and tribulation. We get back to Spider-Man's point of view, as he's on the move, trying to escape his mental tortures. He then feels his spidey sense go off, and as he was kind of tripping about if he was being followed or not, if there was any credence to his nightmares, he kind of realizes it here. However, he fails to dodge a dart, as he states he was scared, and being scared kind of messed with his reaction time, and he couldn't bring himself to move in time as he is hit by the dart. Spider-Man starts to trip, and he thinks it is Joe Face who has returned to haunt him. This is obviously showing the moral struggles of current Spider-Man. However, he soon realizes he was likely poisoned by the dart, and that is when he sees Kraven the Hunter. Kraven goes on to taunt him, telling him to follow him, as mentally he says he is fully immersed in the way of the spider, the essence of the spider. Kraven is definitely ready for this final battle. Spider-Man clearly at this point has been drugged on top of all his mental tortures going on, and he has shitty reaction time by now. Like, I'm sorry guys, his hands are F for fucking trash, okay? Like, he's just not doing well at all against Kraven. Kraven's bullying him at this point. As he trips up and sees Joe Face again. Kraven, by the way, top 5 shittiest names ever given. Like, Joe Chill sounds way better than Joe Face, but Joe Face is the name we go with. Kraven rocks the hell out of him as he knocks Spider-Man down. This is when Spider-Man realizes he's truly been drugged and he's in a lot of trouble, potentially. On top of being drugged, Spider-Man is then hit with this super OP net. He even states when the net goes over him, he's like, oh my god, even if I was at full strength, this would be something I would have a real hard time getting off of me. As he's struggling with the net, he says he should be fine, as this is Kraven who's a villain like the other villains he often faces, meaning that while yes, he does stupid shit like this, he never really takes it too far. He's always doing it for sport, so he'll get out of this. That's when we see the error in this line of thinking. While Spider-Man assumes that Kraven will be a troll like every other time, this is not the case. We see Kraven pull out a rifle and level it. Spider-Man then sees the eyes of Kraven the Hunter and says this isn't the Kraven he knows, as Spider-Man starts to panic. He's in a world of trouble. Spider-Man then, in this moment, recalls his thoughts on his own death as we see him get popped by Kraven the Hunter. This is, of course, a dark turn to the story as Spider-Man is shot and goes down. We then see the culmination of what that digging of a grave was. The digger is there as well as Kraven the Hunter at this site. Kraven goes on to solemnly bury Spider-Man. That's right, this grave we've been seeing this whole time it was built up to be the burial of Spider-Man himself. We then see Kraven joyful after this burial. And as the sky lights up with lightning, part 1 of Kraven's Last Hunt ends, with Kraven reciting the rhyme of the immortal spider, a short poem we will see pop up several times throughout the story. Part 2 begins and starts off with us seeing the tombstone of a dead Spider-Man, as another black suit Spider-Man stands over the tombstone observing it. It is then revealed to be Kraven as he laughs again. If you guys aren't following, not only did he pop Spider-Man, he is now going to be pretending to be Spider-Man, as he has a replica suit made and clearly has bad intentions. We then see a lady making her way down the street as she's suddenly grabbed and yanked underground to the sewers. This is when we see that her snatcher was in fact B-list extraordinaire Vermin. Now, why do I say B-list extraordinaire? Because I promise you, very few of you, if any, actually give a damn about the likes, to be honest. No Vermin. He plays a big part in this story, as we'll see moving forward. Now, this cuts to Mary Jane, who is wondering what's going on. Mary Jane, obviously, longtime love interest of Spider-Man. She recently got married to Peter Parker. She knows what he does. She knows what he goes through. And even though she's confident in his ability and for him to return home, she can't help but wonder, of course, if he's potentially dead out there. I mean, the life he lives is absolutely crazy, and she hasn't seen him in a minute. The life of the hero clearly takes tolls on the loved ones near them, as Mary is absolutely thrown into this mental blender about what could have happened to Peter. That's when we see Kraven's crawling around, just tripping balls in his spider suit, right? He has defeated the spider, technically. I mean, we literally saw him bury Peter Parker. But to Kraven, he has to take that a lot further. He has to prove to himself that he is the superior Spider-Man if he is to rid himself of the Spider-Man mythos that plagues him. We see Kraven's also literally doing quite a bit of herbs, drugs, and poisons, literally corrupting himself, poisoning, flooding his mind and spirit as he attempts to merge with the very essence of being a spider. This is essentially acid trip gone bad. He is conflicted about his father, and we know this because he first refers to him as a bum, and then he calls him a god, someone that fought for the old times of Russia back in its true power and was a fantastic man. He settles by saying his dad came from an old world, and it wasn't his dad's fault for his transgressions and his failures, as it was the spider that consumed him in the old world. We then cut back to Vermin, who obviously ate the lady in kind of gruesome fashion. We see, yeah, that lady got. We then see Vermin is also tripping balls. It seems to be a theme throughout the story. Everyone's tripping, right? And he recalls how much he hates Captain America and Spider-Man because both of them fought him one time and hurt him. He's a man-rat experiment, is super strong, eats people, all that. Cap and Spider teamed up on him. He's getting over the trauma of this beating as he's trying to toughen himself up, because potentially he could experience that again, of course. Kraven then hits his ultimate Yerkes high as he's tripping balls and sees a massive spider form. Clearly, he's going through a poisoned ritual of sorts in the mind. He states this massive spider he's about to face, this is the spider he created, and it's the one he must overcome. This is his last true hunt. As Kraven begins fighting the massive spider, he struggles to retain who he is, as obviously he's undergoing a spiritual transformation, not just a physical one, not just a mental one. This is every category for the likes of Kraven Kravinoff, right? And it really starts to punish him as he wonders if he can hold on to what he believes in and who he really is as he undergoes this transformation. We then switch back to Mary Jane, who's on the run from some creeps who tried to holler at her on the street. She rejected them, told them to stuff it. They didn't like that shit. They're chasing her down and they trip her up. And she realizes, like, oh god, these two dudes could actually kill me. Like, this is a terrible situation. That's when we see Spider-Man appear. And she's like, oh yes, I'm saved. Of course, She has no way of knowing at that point that the Spider-Man that's saving her is not Peter Parker. That's when Kraven, dressed up as the Black Spider-Man, beats the piss out of the men. I mean, absolutely punishes them. And as he does, Mary Jane quickly realizes that's not Spider-Man, because that's not the way he fights. Like, he doesn't fight to brutalize people, doesn't just continue to beat down on them. That's not her man. Vermin, we see, is now on the loose and on the prowl, hunting the Spider-Man for food and this crazy buildup. We see part 3 begin as Kraven hunts men who do crimes. He embraces the way of the spider, but this is different and something we need to know as readers. Like, he embraces the spider on the primal side. The primal side obviously doesn't dominate Peter Parker. So in a way, while he's trying to mimic the spider and has immersed himself in the way of the spider, he has nothing in common with the likes of Peter Parker, which I think is kind of funny, but it also more so highlights the craziness of Kraven in this story. The cops then reveal that Kraven has been absolutely effective as Spider-Man. Of course, they don't know there's a different person donning the mask. They just know there's been an upspike and uptick in brutality from Spider-Man in the past couple weeks. In fact, 15 men have been put in the hospital, and one of them already died. So this is clearly a different type of Spider-Man, as they begin to question if they should even be working with him. We see, as we pan over, Vermin is killing and eating citizens to get Spider-Man's attention. He knows this will draw out Spidey for a fight. He even runs down on the cops, gets shot, and spares one of them because they remind him of his mom. Like, Vermin is so far gone from the experiments ran on him that he can't help but trip out. Okay, like, we can't hate on Vermin for how stupid he is, how crazy he is. It's not his fault. He's the result of a mad experiment. Mary Jane goes on to pull up on the editor of the Daily Bugle, who of course has a long-standing history with Peter, knows him very well, and someone she could potentially confide in, and she's very worried, especially seeing a crazy Spider-Man, that Peter's gone. However, she can't bring herself to really talk to him about this, as she doesn't want him to know what's happened to Peter and what she fears to be true with him being Spider-Man. We then see Kraven spots Vermin as his last battle. He's like, okay, this is pretty much one of the last issues of my battle, so to speak, like last criteria, and it's going to be an actual battle. And he says it's his final purification, the final step to restoring his personal honor. We then see in a confrontation between Kraven and Spider-Man and Vermin. Vermin's pissed when he sees him. He's like, dude, last time we met, you jumped me like a hoe. You had Captain America with you. Y'all ran a 2v1. Like, that was not fair. You're not tough. I don't respect it. Obviously, there's a lot of bad blood here that Kraven is playing on. That's when we see Kraven's using this fight to gas himself up. He's fighting Vermin, and he's like, yo, Vermin, you remember last time I had to jump you? And Vermin's like, yeah, I do remember that. And he's like, yeah, I should never beat you one-on-one, right? Like, I should not be able to beat you. Yet I'm putting the pause on you right now. As Kraven continues to fight Vermin, and he's taking it to him as they go back and forth. He's doing this because he legitimately thinks it's impossible for Peter Parker Spider-Man to defeat the Vermin, because he had to have Captain America with him when he did it. Therefore, if Kraven overcomes Vermin, he's naturally superior to Spider-Man. He's trying to use ABC logic. He's Kraven's power scaling. Smash the like button for Kraven the power scaler. Now, Kraven, after defeating Vermin, carries him back completely beat up, right? As we see Peter at this point is digging his way out of the dirt. That's right. Peter Parker is not dead. He's returning from the grave. Part 4 starts off with us seeing Peter stuck in a white place. Now, we're not really shown, is this his dreams? Is him just hallucinating? Is this him coming down from the drugs that have been injected into him from Kraven when he was buried? We're not really sure, right? But we do know he sees his dead friend Ned and wonders if he's died as well, and this is just some sick hallucinogenic trip after death. Peter struggles inside of his own mind as he doubts he is the Spider. He is just Peter Parker, a man who is weak, and very well a man who can die pretty easily. In a lot of ways, Peter Parker is as feeble as it gets as a man. And you know, Spider-Man haters, you're up right now with the trash talk. However, Peter kind of comes back from this with some pretty savage lines, as he says he will dig his way out and survive. Spider-Man may have died. Spider-Man may very well have been killed by Kraven. But that is the death of a mask, not the death of a man. As Peter says, as a man, he will find his way to get out of this, to return to his loved ones. Peter proclaims that the fragility of Peter Parker, how fragile he is as a man, as a human being, this is also his strength. Because being a man, being a human, it brings forth the emotions he needs to keep pushing through. The love for Mary Jane, the love for his family, the need to protect those that can't protect themselves. All these feelings help him overcome his weaknesses as a man. We see that through focusing on his love for Mary Jane, which is a big deal to Peter. I mean, obviously they just got married. Peter Parker digs his way out and stumbles into a church, having survived this near-death experience. We then see Peter begin to rage as he stumbles upon headlines in newspapers, seeing that Kraven has taken up the mantle of Spider-Man and is doing crazy shit, as well as there is a killer cannibal on the loose. It's just absolute hell in Peter's territory, and terrible things are being done in his name. He was kept down, as he finds out brutally, for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, Kraven's been performing this sick ritual of his. He resists going full savage as he begins his hunt for Kraven. He's not hunting Kraven as a spider. He's hunting him as the man, Peter Parker, someone who takes pride in being a hero, takes pride in putting on that mask, and is seeing his legacy and everything he's worked for being destroyed by this crazy son of a bitch. Like, that's all you can say. Like, he hates Kraven at this point. Peter then, and which is pretty cool to see, one of his first things back, revisits Mary, as both of them, him and Mary Jane, are completely traumatized by this ordeal. But sadly for him, he has to leave, right? He can't stay with her, because he says, as much as I love you, as much as you help me get back to the light, I need to go hunt the creature in the dark that's been doing all this. I need to go hunt the person haunting both of us. I need to take down Kraven the Hunter, because I don't know why he's doing this, and he's gone too far. And we see in a panel that Kraven is very excited for Spider-Man's comeback. Part 4 ends with Peter arriving to face Kraven, as we obviously see Kraven is very happy to be running into Spider-Man. Part 5 speaks, and this, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, one of the best comic lines ever. Part 5 speaks of Kraven saying they called his mother insane. He says, they said my mother was insane. This is a line that will haunt you as a reader for the rest of your times in comic book history. Okay, I promise you this line's amazing when you see it come full circle. We then see Kraven kind of revisiting what his parents went through, right? Especially his mom and how she saw the nation collapse. She went from royalty to victim, saw the spider consume her world. And they said she was crazy. They said she killed herself. Kraven doesn't believe that to be true. He believes it was the spider that pushed her to the edge. Ultimately, it was the spider that took her life. Peter then confronts Kraven, as Kraven sees this as a battle against the demon that ruined Russia, killed his mother, and destroyed his father. And as Peter swings on him, Kraven just laughs, because not only does he see him as the demon, but he sees him as a demon Kraven has beaten no matter what he does to him. Kraven then refuses to fight back, which obviously confuses the shit out of Peter, because Peter's like, why are you doing all this sadistic stuff? And then suddenly you don't want to throw hands. And Kraven says, look, you don't understand the truth of the matter. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know my goals. So allow me, Spider-Man, to show you the truth. That's when he said, all this buildup, all their back and forth, all he's done, it was done with the intent to prove he is truly beyond Spider-Man in every facet of the imagination. And in this exchange, Kraven explains how even if Peter's not admitting it, that spider side to him, that primal side to him, understands what Kraven has done, understands the extent of the actions of Kraven, and respects it in a way, as one respects a predator. However, Kraven is not done. As he explains, he wants to take Spider-Man on a journey down into the dark and tells him, "You have spider sense. You know I'm not trying to jump you. Come down here. It's not a trap." And Spider-Man, thoroughly confused by this crackhead, is like, "All right, I'm going to follow him down and see what's going on, because none of this is making sense." Kraven, as he's leading Spider-Man into the darkness, recalls all the demons that haunt him from growing up in Russia as it collapsed, to moving to America and feeling like he's suffocating, to finding himself in the primal nature of the jungle. All these things haunt him, but he's soon getting past them. He says that all of this will come to an end soon, as he shows Spider-Man that he has Vermin locked up in a cage, being tortured by the likes of the devices that keep him in there. Kraven then gloats about beating who Spider-Man could not. Like I said, Vermin ended up a big deal, at least from the perspective of Kraven, which for the story is really all that matters. As Kraven says, you could never overcome him, you needed help. I defeated him. I, simply put, can do what the Spider-Man could not. I am a better version of Spider-Man. This torture of Vermin, who Spider-Man knows is not mentally all there, right? He's heavily damaged by these experiments. This drives Spider-Man into a fit of rage as he sees the trauma Kraven has inflicted. See, it's one thing to put Peter through that trauma and to hurt him. It's a whole nother ballgame to hurt other people in a way that Spider-Man can relate to. This is just going to drive him mad as he realizes Kraven's been doing this bullshit to other people, not just him. Kraven then gloats as Peter tries to chastise him and get on him for being crazy as hell and torturing a random creature. He says he's the ultimate hunter, the slayer of the spider that consumed his parents. To him, Kraven has done what few could do, which was beat his own personal demons thoroughly. That's when we see Kraven lets out Vermin, and he says, "Vermin, you understand what Spider-Man did to you. He just beat you up. He just put you in that cage, locked you in there, and tortured you. You need to get your get back. You need to beat his ass." And Vermin doesn't need further convincing. He's like, "Okay, bet. Time to put work in," and he leaps towards Spider-Man as they begin to fight. Spider-Man goes back and forth with Vermin as Kraven feels tired and drained watching this fight. He has won, and spiritually to himself, he feels he has grown tired of this game. He feels tired of the game of life, in which he feels he just won the final battle in. He once again mentions how they said his mother was insane, as he watches the fight between Vermin and Spider-Man continue. Vermin then rocks Spider-Man as Kraven watches, recalling the insanity in which the people spoke of. Perhaps they thought his mother was crazy, but was she really crazy? Was she just trying to do what Kraven just did, which was defeat his inner demons, defeat his own spider? Kraven stops the fight once Vermin is winning and is trying to get the killing blow on Spider-Man. He lets Vermin go free, telling him to run loose and do whatever he wants to. That's when he sees Spider-Man in a completely different light as he helps Spider-Man up. He doesn't see him as Spider-Man anymore. He just sees him as a man now. Someone he can even concede is a good man. He then says the spider that haunted him throughout his life, well, that spider is now dead. Kraven promises Spider-Man that he will never hunt again. He tells Spider-Man to go forth and stop Vermin, because stopping characters like Vermin is the spider that haunts Peter Parker. Then Kraven speaks out. Everyone has their own spider that haunts him. And for him to slay his own spider, that was the ultimate honor. He cannot ask for anything better than that. For the first time in his troubled life, Kraven the Hunter, Kraven the Beast, Kraven the Man, has finally found peace. his journey can end. This journey of ultimate battles, ultimate hunts, and a final hunt. It can finally end with the death of his own personal spider as he picks up the rifle. Kraven then turns the gun on himself in front of an empty casket, recalling how they said his mother was insane. And then he blows his own brains out as the portrait of his family looks on and gets stained with his own blood. I'm sorry, guys. I told you that line was as hard as it gets when it comes to comics, and it would come back eventually. It'd come full circle. It doesn't get much more full circle than that, as Kraven the Hunter is now dead. We then get to the final part of the story, showing Spider-Man hunting Vermin as the trauma of Kraven still haunts him. He doesn't understand what's going on with Kraven. He doesn't understand why he's tripping balls. Definitely doesn't understand why Kraven let him go to hunt Vermin. He just knows this story is fucked up, right? And Spider-Man just wants to rest as he finds himself in the sewers, but he can't. The rats are upon him. He ignores his fear, doing his best not to give in to it, as he plunges further into the dark, understanding that it's his role to try to stop what haunts the city. We then pan over and see detectives arriving at the mansion of Kraven, as an anonymous caller had called it in and turned out to be right. This was the home of Kraven. But not only that, they find in the home a full confession written by Kraven the Hunter, explaining how everything had played out, which completely surprises the detectives. We then see Spider-Man, as we pan back over, battling Vermin back and forth, as he wonders if he's even alive. Is he actually alive here, or is this some crazy trip in the afterlife he's undergoing for unknown reasons? He can't even really tell reality from falsity anymore, as he's been through so much in the last couple weeks. We then see Spider-Man is losing it as he rocks Vermin and makes Vermin promise to stop. As he's threatening him, he realizes this isn't something he usually does. But at the same time, perhaps all these things have just pushed him too far, and he truly is going insane. Vermin doesn't want to leave the darkness as Spider-Man offers to help him, and we see Peter succumb to his own fear, or at least that's what appears to be so, as he flees. He flees in fear, and he's trying to get back to the light instead of the darkness of the sewers, which obviously to the mentally tortured Peter means so much more right now. Spider-Man then gets above ground, and as Vermin pursues him, he nearly gets hit by a car. However, Spider-Man saves him, webs him up, and promises to get Reed Richards to help him as the cops arrive, telling him, hey, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you were experimented on. It was fucked up. I'm going to get you some help. We then see Peter kind of struggling with what's going on as he tries to leave, and he wonders how the cops knew what Kraven did because they mentioned it. They're like, man, this is some crazy shit Kraven's been pulling. We finally got the cannibal killer. Like, this is a wild week. And Peter's like, how the hell do they know what Kraven did? He doesn't know Kraven completely confessed to everything, and he just swings off, right? He's just glad to be back in the light where he belongs. We then see Peter making it home into the arms of Mary Jane. And to me, this showed not only was being back among society, the light, but being in the arms of someone like Mary Jane, someone he truly loves, that's Peter's personal light. The story then ends with the burial of Kraven, as we see yet again another grave had been dug, this one for Kraven the Hunter. And the tombstone reads, in the end, that this was the resting site of Kraven the Hunter, he who died with great honor. And that is how Kraven's last hunt ends. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of Kraven's Last Hunt? If you haven't read it, let me know what you think of my narration of the story. I hope I covered it very well. I also encourage you to go check it out. You can join my Discord and I'll send you a link to it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the story. Let me know what other epic stories I need to cover on my channel. And hit the like button if you haven't already. But it's been your boy, Dr. Goon, and I will see y'all later. Peace.